Hi, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about rejection and relationships. And the reason I want to do this is because a friend of mine asked me the other day if I got jealous in a certain situation. And I'm going to share with you what that situation was and the mindset that I have when it comes to women, dating, my business, and just life in general that allows me to be totally free from the fear of rejection and actually be able to talk to you now on this camera and tell you that I don't believe in rejection. Like, to me, it's not a real concept. It doesn't exist to me. And here's why. So, to illustrate, let me tell you this story. I was out with a woman, and her and I had we've been seeing each other for a short amount of time, and it's not really clear what direction the relationship was moving in. It was still very light, it was still very casual, and we were out, and guy after guy after guy was hitting on her and trying to take her home, get her contact information, etc. And she handled it really well. Like, she was very respectful to me. She carried herself very well in that situation. But it was a lot. I mean, it was kind of absurd, honestly, the amount of penises that were being thrown at her. It was just insane. I actually felt for her, man. And so I was talking to my friend about this the other day, and he says, well, didn't you get jealous? Didn't you get jealous? And I said, not at all. Number one, if people, what's that, Chris Brown, or is it Neo? What's that song? Is like, if they're not looking at my woman, then I don't want her. Like, the fact that people are interested in somebody that you're with is a sign that you have a desirable person, right? So, obviously, I'm glad that people are looking at her or interested in her, right? It's why I was interested in her in the first place. I think I found more to her than what's there at first glance, at least hopefully. Hopefully I'm not skin deep. But I said not at all. I sincerely don't care if something happens. Like, let's say that one of those guys and her hit it off, and she ends up going out with him or sleeping with him. And I'm not saying that that's the ending that I would choose in this build your own adventure novel that we call life, but what I am saying is that it sincerely doesn't bother me if it happens. And the reason for that is because I'm so committed to this idea of bringing the right people into my life that I believe in it too with utter conviction that the people who are supposed to be in my life will be in my life for me, for who I am, and that when I do meet the queen to my kingdom, that she can go into any room, any place, and she represents me, and it doesn't matter how many dudes are getting after her. My queen, I know, is so committed to me and faithful to me because she loves me, for me, that if a particular person, relationship, date, marriage, whatever, doesn't work out, that might hurt, that might be devastating even, but that just means it wasn't my queen. That's all it means. And so guess what? Now, with that person out of the picture, I get to go find my queen. I'm one step closer to finding that person. So that's the first thing, is that if, in a sense, we're talking about rejection. If I get rejected, right, that just means that person wasn't my queen. And the truth is, you don't want You don't want everyone to like love you. You really don't. You want a finite select group of people who really match you. You want those people in your life. And you only learn that when you start to bring more quality connections into your life. When you come from this place of abundance, whether that's with your friendships or with your relationships or in business, when you come from a place of abundance, you find out you actually don't want to be friends with everybody. You don't want to have chemistry with every girl. You just don't have chemistry with every girl or guy if you're a woman watching this. And that's good. That's a good thing. You just don't have the time. You don't have the time. So that's the first thing, is they're not for me. They're not for me. Some people like Coke, some people like Pepsi. So if they're not on brand, then bye-bye, peace. And that's not a bad thing. That I can say that, and I can lovingly let them go drink their Pepsi. Coke is better. We all know Coke is better, but it's okay. People have different tastes. The second thing to realize is, and this is actually true, it took me a long time to really grasp this and understand it, but rejection is not real. Let's start with a relationship, right? Assuming that you want to be in a relationship with someone who likes you, then by definition, if they reject you, then you didn't want them in the first place. Think about that, right? If you want to be in a relationship with someone who likes you, and I don't know, I can't imagine wanting to be with somebody who doesn't like you, although I have dated those girls before. So maybe that's a stage of growth thing, and we should talk about that too. There are part of this thing about relationships is growing yourself, really. Like finding the right person is really about you becoming the best version of yourself. My dad had this saying that water seeks its own level. And in my experience, that is true in relationships. And I'm so fortunate to be a coach because I'm always working on myself, that the quality of women that I meet now are phenomenal. Like, these women are confident, they're successful, they're gorgeous, they're like super like balanced in their energy. Like, they can be masculine, but they can also be really feminine. I'm just surrounded by incredible women because I've been like taking myself up to higher echelons. And when you do that, you're gonna meet different people. So back to the thing, right? If you, let's say this person rejects you, okay? That means that, one of two things, by the way. It depends how early on in the relationship it is. So if you just meet somebody and they reject you, okay? They're not actually rejecting you because they don't know you. You can't know somebody off of a first introduction, right? A lot of us do make first impressions about people and then hold on to that projection, that little fake projection that we make about that person, and it's not real, it's not relevant, it's and then slowly over time we start to learn who that person actually is, and we're like, oh, this is not who I thought you were at all. So if you get rejected initially, it's not real at all because they don't know you at all. They haven't actually had a chance to reject you. They've maybe had a chance to reject this 30-second to 5-minute to 10-minute, maybe an hour, whatever it was. But this like short time frame, they're just rejecting that. They don't know you yet. They don't know you yet. So all of these things about learning like communication skills and learning dating skills, I think a lot of people misinterpret these things, where even sales skills, like if you're learning to become a professional salesperson or professional speaker, communicator, a lot of people use personal development to destroy themselves rather than to enhance who they are. So it is true that by working on your communication skills, you can take that hour and make it something that will create more choices for you, so that when you're with somebody, by learning how to communicate more effectively within that time frame, whether it's a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, you're now creating a space in which they have an opportunity to learn who you are. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But they're still not rejecting you. They're rejecting that communication. Now, let's say they actually know you. Let's say that they actually know who you are, and they are rejecting you. They're like, listen, I've dated you for years. I can't do this shit anymore. The way you scream when Game of Thrones is on, I'm out, right? First of all, I'd be like, why are you low-key when you're watching Game of Thrones? If you're not on your feet, like punching those walkers while you're watching Game of Thrones, then you're on heroin, as far as I'm concerned. But where wasn't I? Yeah, so let's say they have been dating you for a long time, they know you, and they are actually rejecting you, right? They're saying you and I are not the right fit for each other. What that really means is that you didn't want them in the first place. It's not gonna feel like that initially. But remember, you want somebody who wants you. You want somebody who wants you. So if somebody doesn't want you, by definition, you don't want that person. So I actually do believe this and think this way, that rejection is not real. Rejection is a figment of the mind. It is absolutely a creation. And I've been fortunate enough to have put myself through enough rejection to where it does not, it's not that I'm completely free. Like sometimes I will still, if I'm being totally honest, hesitate. But for the most part, that hesitation has become so small in response to my ability to take action, to create opportunity. You want to be able to create opportunity. And especially in relationships, a lot of people will sacrifice their boundaries, they'll sacrifice what they want, they'll conform to another person's idea of the relationship, and the whole time they're swallowing their truth because they're afraid of rejection, which isn't real. So when you can understand this, when you can really grasp that rejection. So anyway, keep this in mind, rejection is not real. And what is real is missing somebody. And learning to be okay with that is part of the things that you're gonna have to learn to do. But that means when you're missing that person, that means that you're moving on. Part of a breakup is that it's supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to feel good. So when you are moving on from someone, it's going to feel like you're moving on. So, it's okay. It's like when you're on a diet, you're supposed to be a little hungry. If you're quitting smoking, you should get a little antsy. That's part of the process of moving on and withdrawing all of that emotion from your life. So, rejection, not real, just to sum up. And I know this is easier said than done. And there are practices that you can do to really come into this understanding more fully. And that is to, number one, start working on yourself. Start getting coaching. Start going to seminars. Commit to personal development. Commit to becoming the best version of yourself. Because the truth is, you're gonna attract the same type of people over and over and over again until you start to grow and heal your childhood learnings, let's call them. So if you want something more in any area of your life, you have to grow inside too. You can't just say, I'm gonna change this relationship without going inside first and understanding why you were susceptible to that relationship in the first place. It requires professional help. It requires somebody who's been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, to be able to say, okay, here's why you've been thinking, feeling, and acting this way. Now let's put that aside and come into this adult you that can really attract what you want in your life. And when you start to think about just how much better your life will be as a result of that, that's when people really start to take action. I hope you guys have a great day.